This is a quick follow-up to a video I left this morning called something like Taste and Riots, where I was talking about Bourdieu's idea of taste. You know how many of us aspire to the tastes of the wealthy. It's not so much that we look at the taste of the wealthy and aspire to that. It's more that the thing that we come into the world almost recognising as tasteful has already been laid down by the actions of the wealthy and the actions of the elite. It's not that it may be that we do that consciously, but even if we don't do it consciously, it's constantly there. You know, the canon of Western art, for example, is the canon of the tastes, it's the history of the tastes of the wealthy, the patrons and the collectors. So it's right there in the cultural DNA. But there's something else, because just before I left the house I checked the comments, and to be serious yourself, Karen, I'd love to comment on there saying, you know, am I saying that we're jealous of chavs? Because it's also in that video I presented the kind of reverse of that, which is this fascination not just with fascination by the proletariat of the elite, but also the reverse, in which the elite and the middle class are somehow envious of the freedoms and the energy of the common people, the underclass. And so I'm saying, am I saying that people are jealous of chavs? I don't think so, not in quite the same way. But I do think there's a fascination going on there, an ongoing fascination, built into the culture at large and the subcultures. I mean, certainly, young working class or underclass men, particularly, have long been kind of fated in all kinds of different ways. They feature within kind of noble savage myths, don't they? And you find them in kind of romantic myths, and heavily sexualised, I have to say, in the kind of romantic myths from Mellors in Lady Chatterley's Lover. Admittedly, he's a gamekeeper, but he is, far lower down the social strata than she is. Mellors, this kind of primal force of nature, which being poor and working class is supposed to manifest. From that to that kind of fetishisation of young working class boys and lads by some sectors of the gay community. There's been ongoing flirtation of there, hasn't there, with skinheads and street punks and that whole that kind of ongoing fascination of with, as I say, the poor and the destitute and a kind of source of vitality almost. But I do think we see that in the cultural mainstream. I mean, certainly in things like fashion, and particularly with the riots. It was so interesting, because a lot of the images that came out of the riots are kind of iconic. The famous ones of the bus burning, or the furniture shop burning, or that poor kid getting his jaw broken on CCTV. But the two that stand out for me, actually, there's one where a guy is holding some of his booty, and what it is it's a large bag of Tesco value basmati rice. That's what he's nicked. He's nicked a big bag of rice. I mean, that's just so emblematic. But the other one I really found jumped out at me was a whole gang of hoodies and chavs and street kids almost queuing to get into JD Sports to nick the stuff. Because JD Sports and Carhartt and one or two other shops were the main targets. Yeah, sure, they went after the jewellers as well, but JD Sports was the big hit. And that's an odd one, isn't it, really? Because JD Sports, although it says it's a sports shop, is really a fashion shop. And it's kind of sports casual fashion. But a lot of the brands that JD stock and a lot of the things that people buy out of JD Sports are things like Adidas and Mackenzie and Carhartt and Puma, a bit Nike as well, and a few other brands. And these brands have also been flirting with street culture themselves as brands for quite a long time. A lot of the fashion that JD Sports holds, that people wear by Adidas, is stuff that looks like it's been distressed. It looks like it's been worn out almost. It looks like it's been patched. It looks like it's been overprinted, as if this is almost a fault in the manufacturing, so it's been remaindered and only poor people could get that. But because poor people are cool and sexy and energetic and vital, it becomes part of the desirability, So there's a weird little loop going on there. It seems to me that in the raids on JD Sports, it's almost as if, here's a shop but selling brands that for years, decades really, has been essentially commodifying fashion, if you like, or the clothing choices of the underclasses, the gangster kind of culture, commodifying those and selling them, well, to work to all of us, to the middle class, but also selling them back to the very people who originated those fashions in the first place at vastly inflated prices. And here they are at the time of the riot, and what are they stealing? They're not stealing the Louis Vuitton handbags. They're not, going into posh areas and stealing really nice suits from Savile Row. They're not getting Jermyn Street shirts. No, they're going into JD Sports and stealing back the fashions that kind of came for them in the first place. And bags of basmati rice. So I don't think it's about envying chav culture. I think it's about the lust that a lot of society has for what it sees as the romantic mythology attached to the underclass. And weirdly enough, the underclass itself seems to have bought into its own mythology and is trying and would want to steal it back, stealing its own mythology back from the people that stole it from them, is trying to sell it to them back at vastly inflated prices. And I don't think that makes any sense. Maybe.